Welcome to This Explainer. We're diving straight into a mystery that literally changed the way we fly, the incredibly complex and tragic story of TWA Flight 800. This is one of those events that fundamentally shifted our understanding of aviation, taking a massive human tragedy and turning it into a deeply intricate scientific puzzle. We're going to walk through exactly what happened, the intense, almost unbelievable speculation that followed, and the painstaking investigation that finally uncovered the truth. You really have to wonder, how does a seemingly routine flight transform into a monumental detective story, one that permanently changed aviation? I mean, aviation investigations are always thorough, right? But the sheer scale of what happened next was entirely unprecedented. It wasn't just about finding a black box. We're talking about sorting through international panic, incredibly complex engineering, and the deep, dark waters of the Atlantic Ocean. How does a totally normal evening turn into a multi-year, multi-agency quest for answers? Let's get into it. Section 1. The final routine departure. Picture the scene for a second. It's a beautiful, warm summer evening in New York. Kids are excited for their vacations, families are saying their goodbyes, and this massive Boeing 747, operated by Trans World Airlines, is gearing up for a standard trip across the pond. At 8:19 p.m., the aircraft takes off normally. The pilots are communicating perfectly with air traffic control, the weather is totally clear, and the plane is climbing smoothly over the Atlantic. For 11 whole minutes, it is the absolute picture of modern aviation reliability. But then, right at the 12-minute mark, everything changes. A bright flash suddenly illuminates the sky, followed just seconds later by a massive fireball. The aircraft literally broke apart in midair. And heartbreakingly, all 230 passengers and crew members on board lost their lives in the waters near Long Island. There were absolutely no survivors. As you can imagine, the response was immediate and massive. You had rescue boats, Navy ships, Coast Guard crews, and helicopters all rushing to the crash site, just hoping against hope to find anyone in the dark. The tragedy instantly became one of the most devastating aviation disasters in American history, leaving an entire nation mourning and naturally demanding answers. Section 2. Rumors in the sky. Because so many witnesses along the coast saw a bright streak of light, rumors quickly took hold across the country. And honestly, you have to put yourself in the shoes of the people standing on the beaches of Long Island that night. They looked up and saw something completely inexplicable happening in the night sky. That streak of light quickly became the focal point of intense media and public scrutiny. When we see something we don't understand, especially right before a tragedy of this magnitude, our imaginations immediately try to fill in the blanks. It's just human nature. In the immediate aftermath, there was this stark, almost jarring contrast between terrifying public rumors and the highly methodical reality of the investigation. The headlines were totally dominated by fears of missile strikes or terrorism, and it was a tense era, so those fears felt very, very real. But the FBI and NTSB, they didn't jump to conclusions. Instead, investigators systematically interviewed hundreds of witnesses and examined every single possible theory. They spent years poring over radar data, reviewing flight recorders, scrutinizing aircraft components, and carefully swabbing for any microscopic trace of explosive residue. To actually uncover the truth, investigators undertook the awe-inspiring task of literally piecing a massive Boeing 747 back together from the ocean floor. And we aren't just talking about picking up a few vital components here. Divers spent months working in extremely difficult, dangerous conditions, searching the Atlantic. They carefully recovered thousands upon thousands of pieces of mangled wreckage. These pieces were then transported to a highly secure hangar where investigators spent years reconstructing nearly the entire aircraft. They basically created a giant, tragic, three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle just to physically see exactly where the structural failures began. Section 3. Uncovering the true cause. Ultimately, this rigorous investigation pointed directly to the center fuel tank. This was a crucial component where a deadly mixture was just quietly waiting for a spark. After conducting one of the longest and most detailed investigations in aviation history, the NTSB officially dismissed the theories of missiles and terrorism. The evidence actually led them inside the plane itself. They concluded the most likely cause was an explosion originating right at the center fuel tank. You see, because this tank was nearly empty, it wasn't just a harmless metal box. It was a confined space filled with highly flammable fuel vapors that had accumulated as the aircraft sat baking on the hot tarmac that summer evening. So here's how a microscopic electrical failure logically cascaded into a massive explosion in a really tragic three-step sequence. First, investigators determined there was likely a short circuit in the aircraft's electrical wiring. Second, that tiny electrical spark managed to find its way into the center fuel tank, directly igniting those accumulated flammable vapors we just talked about. And third, that ignition caused a massive, catastrophic explosion from the inside out, instantly compromising the structural integrity of the giant 747 while it was flying miles above the ocean. In the end, it was cold, hard science and structural evidence that silenced the rumors. Section 4. A lasting safety legacy. This disaster was an absolute wake-up call that fundamentally transformed aviation safety protocols forever. Airlines were suddenly required to introduce entirely new, rigorous inspection procedures that specifically targeted aging electrical systems. Aircraft manufacturers actually had to go back to the drawing board and redesign fuel tank safety features. They implemented incredible systems that replaced the oxygen in fuel tanks with inert gases, like nitrogen, to prevent vapor explosions from ever happening again. Furthermore, maintenance standards were vastly strengthened across the entire global aviation industry. This meticulous investigation not only solved an unbelievable mystery, but it fundamentally made the skies safer for all of us today. While the official NTSB investigation answered the burning questions, the tragedy of TWA Flight 800 remains one of the most discussed aviation disasters in American history. And we remember it, right? Not only for the profound grief and the lives lost on that July evening, but for the hard-earned lessons it taught the industry. The people on that flight left behind a legacy that is actively working right now to protect millions of passengers around the globe. So, to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. Every single time you fly safely today, you are directly protected by the lessons learned from Flight 800. The redesigned fuel tanks, the stricter electrical checks. These are just two examples of the invisible armor built into modern aircraft. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other hidden engineering triumphs, born out of meticulous investigation and past tragedies, protect us every single time we board a plane? It's a powerful testament to the fact that in aviation, every solved mystery is a step toward perfecting human flight. Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive, and I encourage you to keep questioning the incredible systems that quietly keep our world running safely every single day.